In this video, Felix and I watch over and critique Blue's berry closeout, and point out what goes wrong.
Okay, pause again. And this is where the problems. So this is where the problems come in, right? So now, uh, Blue was a little aggressive, and they lost one warrior, right?
Mhm.
Uh, in the Bob's model, right? You must get like this warrior has a hard decision to make.
Yeah,
Well, no, actually, there's not really a hard decision. The decision is I will either stop the snail or get more berries up, right?
yeah,
But either way, they're in a relatively safe position right now. They don't need to. They don't need to clear, and this is the trap that some warriors get into in this model, where it's like I want to force the objective. Or the team starts thinking I want to force this objective,
yeah,
right? You don't need to force the objective right now. Like
yeah.
the threat of the berries is already there. Like someone is stuck on ledge forever. So now your goal is to shut the door on any possibility of them winning.
Yeah.
So I think this is where Blue makes the crucial mistake. So
Yep.
let's
Yeah,
continue.
this is something that I watched too, and then I recognize the same thing.
Mhm.
So what you're gonna see is Blue checks tries to go up into the hive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Blue checks needs to go. So if I were Blue checks right now,
You clear the snail.
I clear the snail, right?
Yeah.
I
Their
clear the
only
snail
chance
and
of
call
getting
for a
anything
rider.
is the snail. Right.
Yeah. I clear the snail, call for a rider, and then one person gets up on right gate.
Yeah.
Then you also probably pull blue gold abs out of the hive with you. Then you just need to survive gold abs and blue checks, which is, it's not impossible. They're both vanilla. You're vanilla. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. So blue needs to get someone up now.
Right.
Well,
And
so let's go back a second to blue skulls
Blue skulls.
real quick. So blue skulls tries for a hover transfer play,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not the worst play, right?
Yeah.
Like some people
Especially
will
with
look at
another
that
warrior
and
there.
be like, that's super greedy or whatever. Like there is a potential to break into the hive right there, right?
Yeah.
Like at the very least, clear out one of the defenders, and then like the position for gold is very weak at that
Yeah.
point, right? It's
Yeah.
a risk. They took it, and it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So
I think
I think that's okay,
yeah.
right?
And that's
Oh,
yeah,
sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say, yeah, going back to like the overall thesis,
Mhm.
that individual play is not something that individual play you would see in high level games too.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
The difference between that play and this play is what happens after. Right. Like
Yeah.
the reason that that's okay play to make is if you look at the board, yeah, like everything's kind of on blue's side. You have a warrior already up. If you get that kill, like you can vary berries pretty easily
Yeah.
from that situation. And also all the gates are tagged and
Yeah.
the speed gate on the right is tagged. When you make that play, you're thinking, my team knows what's going on. They're gonna get me back up. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. And that's the
Yeah.
difference.
So yeah, and the one thing is like after Blue Skulls does this, like they die, they should look to get up, right? Since they're one of the main warriors.
Yeah.
So if they get up, then position pretty much reset, right?
Yeah.
I think they try and run berries instead, which is
Berry sickness, right?
the lure of Bob's.
Yeah.
The real crux of the problem is that the game state is very hinged on blue checks' survival.
Yeah.
And if blue checks, goes and clears the snail and hangs out around the right side of the map, everything's
Gives
fine.
you an infinite amount of time.
Right.
Well, not
Yeah.
infinite, but it's
a lot of time, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, I think blue checks thought that they wanted to clear this. They wanted to force it too, right?
Yeah. That speaks to me of like overconfidence in things that had just happened like maybe 20 seconds ago, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like you were able to clear a couple, you're getting a couple of warrior kills. I think you're not switching your mindset based on the state of the map changing.
Right. And that is like one thing that newer players have a bit of trouble with is like how quickly that, like you mentioned before, like the state of the game switches very quickly.
Yeah.
As soon as they went down to one warrior, that's a game state flip, right?
Yeah.
Like that is blue checks cue to get out of dodge and go do something else.
Yeah. And sometimes you can rely on your teammates making the call that you're last, but sometimes you can't. So really you have to expand your field of view, or you have to expand your ability to see the entire map.
So now this was a very winnable game for blue. Now it is much more in danger, right?
Yeah, I mean, 30 seconds ago, I would have thought that they were like 80%, 90% to win.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was unfortunate glance that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, this gold team, very experienced in lockout, right? Like they have that bump. Yeah, but that was sort of the natural extension of the lost game state, right? Like basically as soon as blue checks went down, so there are two. This is what I mean about not being on the same page for Bob's, right? It's like the queen goes up to clear the hive, right? This is normally a fine thing.
Yeah.
The warrior goes down. The last warrior goes down. This is also normally a fine thing. The problem is that because the queen went up to clear the hive right as the warrior went down, they died in the upper quadrant of the map.
Yeah.
Where both of their gates were on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
And now there's no defense for when the queen decides to just bail, or one of the other warriors decides to just bail and go like cover those gates, right?
Yeah.
The positional advantage that they had was lost when the queen and the warrior both abandoned the like routes to the gates.
Yeah.
Like either of those actions on their own probably would have been fine and they probably would have salvaged it, but because they like gave up their sort of entrenched position on the map, they no longer had a path to victory.
Yeah. And that's like it's a really hard thing to feel. I've seen where, because it's very hard to quantify these things of like when you switch from defense, when you switch to offense, like when the game state changes, what you're supposed to do. And I haven't found like a good way to like really explain it, but you kind of just have to feel it by playing a lot of different games.
Yeah.
But like immediately when you watch back something like that, it's like obvious where it's like at what point should you have gone more defensive? And that's probably when your second warrior went down. And it's not just like a blue checks thing. It wasn't just a queen thing. It was a combination of both, like you said. And again, like the difference between winning and losing, or, you know, getting into a winning position, was probably the difference of a decision making on the queen by like 2 seconds, right? Like if they didn't try to ferry those berries, if the snail was still sort of in the tunnel, and then you could have gotten a warrior up without much like without feeling too much pressure, like that's the difference, right? It wasn't there was some tech things that, you know, the reason why the queen died, but it was also a decision making thing. Like if you had gone a little bit quicker, like you probably would have got a warrior up a little bit easier. It wouldn't have felt as much pressure.